Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the pre-market analysis that we open up to the YouTube every single Wednesday. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown on what's going to go on after I'm done speaking. So this is Spartan here, by the way. Once I'm done speaking, Beth's going to come on, give you a breakdown of the macro environment, any news events that are happening, that happened over the course of the evening, as well as that are going to be happening this morning or today that makes sense to be looking at. Once that's done, she'll go through any commodities or bigger picture items that make sense to be looking at as well. I'll go through the individual names that I'm looking at today that are gapping up, gapping down. We'll build an action plan for those items, as well as we'll go through the SPY and the FANG. After that's done, South Beach will come on, give you a little bit of a breakdown of the macro environment from his point of view, as well as any analyst calls that he's looking at for today and individual names. And then we'll be pretty much ready to go. We'll do a quick little recap of those individual names that I talked about this morning, as well as the SPY and the FANG. And then we should be ready for the open. So without further ado, I'll go ahead, pass over to Beth, and I'll talk to you guys shortly. Beth, if you're ready, it's all yours.
I'm indeed. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome. Pre-market here at Spartan Trading. Wednesday morning when we open it up live YouTube stream. FYI, I am known as Mama's Options or the Mama. And let's see what kind of mischief we can find. Obviously, it's FOMC, right? We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive this morning in terms of lumber, copper, what happened with China overnight in terms of releasing some of their commodity reserves, how this is going to impact the transitory impact for the Fed and globally. It's not as simple as it seems. Things normally aren't, but let's go over what happened yesterday. The API crude draw was really pretty robust and impressive. Something we have to obviously keep an eye on. Inflation numbers out of the UK were a little bit hotter than expected. And then you saw PPI, et cetera, and then industrial productions out of China, a little bit hotter. Retail sales, a little bit less. Unemployment, right on target. Labor cost index. This was really fascinating, guys. Normally they are spot on with this. So this may be one of the reasons why Lagarde is not as concerned as others might be in terms of the labor cost was lower than expected. Wage growth was lower than expected. Okay, we do have the mortgage applications were up a little bit of a rebound from last month, right? And we also have building permits, housing, et cetera, and then we have the EIA, a walk on the wild side. Interest rate decision, they will be discussing tapering, guys. The most important thing is going to be the dot plot, and we'll go over that in a little bit, and what sort of questions that Powell is sent. They are going to be really, really careful. They've all been very, very careful in terms of how to post their words on this. Market wants some tapering slowly, something. This whole taper tantrum is, I don't know. You know, if you look at the 10-year and say, okay, let's move on. All right. So Barron's had a good article about that, talking about what to look for. The dot plot is, what I'm looking for is these outliers for a longer run to start coming in. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the market wants to see some sort of acknowledgement from the Fed that they may have to, based off of dynamics, economic demand, the market, change their viewpoint in terms of expectation. That's okay. The reality is, for how many years, how many decades do we have low inflation nobody could figure out? Okay, there's structural things going on that, and with the pandemic, who knows? Nobody knows. You just kind of take it month by month. We don't have any FOMC until September after this one. So we have a quiet period. So we'll see how that plays out. So expectation, some of these come back in more on the 2022. I don't think we're going to see anything in 2021, but we're definitely probably going to start seeing the dot plot where more and more are expecting change in 2022, obviously, right? Okay, let's talk inflation. It's been benign. Okay, we've had some spikes. There's no question about that. We had the 1970s, the oil, a spike, as well as after World War II. Right? Since that time, inflation has been incredibly benign, very stable for multiple decades. I'm not talking years, but decades, okay? And if you look going back, around 3%, 2.5% to 3%, which is not, one would assume is the actual norm and average, okay? And this is where the transitory comes in, okay? Yeah, we're gonna have these spikes, but year over year, month over month, as things start to level out, where we're gonna end up. Let's talk. Inflation. If you look in terms of where we are in inflation, guess what? Going back to 2004, we're at the upper end of the band. That's it, right? Let's talk. Lumber. Good, great article out of Forbes going over lumber and what it means. And basically it's telling us that, yeah, it does have a dramatic impact in terms of the cost of a house, a home, a building, and it's $34,000. But, and if you go back, I mean, we're talking, guys, the 1950s here. We just broke out of, 70 plus years of nothingness. And even if you go back to the 1990s, nothingness right there. So how were we able to have the growth that we had and no actual lumber inflation or anything like that commodity side? I'm just the posture. Here we are on the futures with lumber, bounced off this fib right here, notable. I still think we sideways consolidate within this massive range, and that's okay. Now, there was an article that came out that was in the Wall Street Journal that basically says, if you look in terms of housing starts, and this is from 1968 to 2000, 1.5 million units average. Well, we're basically in a 5.5 million deficit. So if you go backwards and say, okay, the reason why lumber is going up is because we've got this massive deficit that we never, and now we see, okay, in terms of single family homes, in terms of buildings, okay, et cetera, 2 and 4 units, as well as 5+ units. This is why lumber is going up, and some of these are like copper, et cetera, right? This is the facts that for so many decades we've done nothing to address the shortages, and now with more and more people looking, okay, to buy, it's coming to a head. And lumber is telling us it's starting to come back in and settle down. Okay, let's look in terms of the producer price index in terms of commodities, and we're just going to look at metals, and this is steel. These are all things that you would expect, right? And from an infrastructure point of view within housing, there's copper, yada, yada, yada. These are all things that have to be looked at. Once again, how did we go so many decades, right? Years without any sort of inflationary pressure. Now all of a sudden we've got it. I would expect this is going to be a spike. It's going to come back down. Now, if we look at that, and here you see China, and that's what's put a damper. So how does the Fed look at this? You've got the commodity markets, that copper, steel, lumber, that basically had these massive moves, right? Now they're starting to come back in. Will this assess it? Now, and I'm not talking about cars and stuff like that. A lot of the increases are demand with the cars, used cars, these, et cetera, et cetera. But let's talk about the nuts and bolts of what's going on here, okay? Now, let's take a look here. This is, let's take a look at Bitcoin, because this is what people think in terms of crowded trade. People still think Bitcoin, even, and you can see it right now, even though we went from here in May all the way down to here, but commodities as a whole is here, people still think that Bitcoin is the bubble. And I would say, I'm not so sure about that. I think what we're seeing right now with lumber and copper, that is where the bubble is. And that is probably going to come back down to earth, right? Goldman Sachs, not good. Don't touch, right? All right. Generational opportunity for the steel industry. This almost makes me want to say sell. And when it comes to commodities, guys, you want to buy when nobody wants to buy, and you want to sell when nobody wants to sell. Well, guess what? We're at the nobody wants to sell. So I'm getting a little bit concerned in that regard. Okay. All right. I'll talk about something that's really important. The lumber gold spread. This spread is horrible for the market. Every time the spread meaningfully goes down, the market meaningfully goes down. This is a massive red flag where we're at right now. Please, I'm telling you, as long as lumber continues to go down, we have to be concerned about 5 to 10% pullback in the market. It's that important, more so than copper, the lumber gold spread. Okay, that's telling us be aware, be careful. All right, let's take a look here with Benzinga. What's going on here? You know, I like to take a look at these analyst downgrades, upgrades, et cetera, for today. And then what I like to do is I like to go and see what my peeps are doing. And I have a ranking system that I like to look at. And my ranking system is basically analysts upside and downside 20% plus, got to be 70+% accurate. So we got a few: DCT, FDAI, SQSP, and believe it or not, coin from Concord. Cool, right? Okay, let's see what our gal's up to. Well, as we thought, she was buying DraftKings yesterday. Okay, that's cool. Not a lot going on here. And this is the type of market where you kind of sit back and you watch and see what happens. You are going to have these, you know, lower floats doing their thing and the mid caps doing their thing based off of news. But we have to be really, I think what's going to happen is the market, the sky is falling, and then we're going to have a relief rally, probably Thursday, Friday. That's what I'm thinking. But it is OPEX. I still think on the offset of that is because of quarter end, then we're going to see the balance sheet starting to get picked up again. Yesterday, what happened? Energy, right? Financials a little bit, XLI, XLV, and then on the other side, you saw XLY, XLC. So let's take a look now at our heat map. This is a great heat map for the market. Very little rows. Remember last week, it was like a third to almost, yeah, more than a third was rose or red. This is a great heat map for the market. Okay, so things are coming in, and this is what we can see. And you can see this is yesterday, the day before. And you can see more rows, and this is bad, and you don't want to see that at all. And XLK was up there. So, okay, fund flows. Yesterday, SPY, QQQ, money coming out. Where did it go? Not a whole hell of a lot, but XLP, XLF. And this is not a lot in terms of you know, money being put to work. It was more on the sidelines. Once again, I want to bring to your attention that this retail trader is a big deal. And I don't see that changing. And I think it does morph into more important things down the road. Okay, yesterday, what did we see? SPY a little bit, IWM a little bit, but nothing, you know, big. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now. We did start to see the AOKK trade coming in, right? And a lot of that has to do with DraftKings exposure. And then on the other side, we still see Apple being accumulated, which is really fantastic. Apple's holding up really well. And the whole narrative right now is, I think we're going to get and we've talked about this with Amazon. I think we're working our way to for a yearly breakout, which is very powerful for Amazon. I think Apple wants to do the same thing, guys. I think Apple wants to start getting a little bit perky. This is incredibly strong seasonality for Apple going into November. So we should start to see some breakouts. We're seeing FANG, right? Facebook, some money coming in. And even Netflix is starting to see, yesterday was very interesting for me with Intel. So a lot of accumulation going on in that, okay, which is unusual. ATVI, I like this, you know, I like this stock as well. And that's pretty much it. We have to be, I mean, I don't want to get crazy about this. All right, let's take a look in terms of this hype equity sort of thing. This is great. I mean, we see things spreading out, right? But a lot of these are still memes. Right? And meme is just something that's getting a lot of attention, right? This XOM was fantastic. The sweeps going in, DZIO, but Cleveland Cliffs is still getting a lot of attention, which is really fascinating, right? In terms of actual sweeps on the meme side, AMC is still top dog by a lot, right? PLTO, CRSO, yada, 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 yada. And we'll keep an eye on that as we go forward, okay? Let's take a look now. This is the VXN. This is, and we, you know, Spartan's intimated that, well, we can't get a divergence here between the volatility index and the market because it's so low. We have a divergence, a huge divergence, and you can see it's pretty obvious, right? We're at all-time highs, and the VXN is not even close to being at the lows. okay? And this is a huge red flag divergence. And it shows that the market as a whole is complacent, but this is telling us that people do indeed think that the market's too complacent. If they did not think that, then we would be all the way down here. So someone along the line is thinking, you know what, I want a little bit of protection going on here. All right, bonds, let's take a peek. Okay, so we got 30, 10, 5, 2, all down. Canada up slightly, European, all down. Asia, Pacific, all down. Not what you would expect, right? In a high inflation environment, right? No. Okay, 10-year. We're still stuck within this range. This is the low end of the range. Let's see if we reclaim this 147.2. It did bounce off this extension. This is going to be probably multiple months. I won't even think it a year plus that we're going to be in this consolidated period. And that's okay too. That's what bonds are supposed to be doing, right? And you can see here, here's the 10-2 in terms of the yield curve coming in, right? Not what you would expect. The German 10-10 US holding up strong. Here's the gilts, same thing, bouncing off here, starting to go up a little bit. Here's the Japan starting to bounce here. So the Japanese is starting to lose against the US. And on the other side, here's China basically saying, yeah, this is the top end of the range. It's, it's so aggressively controlled. So you can see that the Chinese are starting to weakening the yields against the US commodities. Let's take the peek here. What's going on? Gold up slightly. Don't forget that gold tends to make meaningful lows or highs at FOMC quarterly events. So let's see if we get any sort of meaningful bounce there. Natural gas, heating oil are coming in. We got aluminum, zinc, lead, nickel, copper. This is, if the market can hold up after the news from China, I think that's important and notable on the commodity side, and we may get to see a meaningful bounce. But once again, you want to buy when nobody wants to buy, and nobody's really wanted to buy lumber. Nobody's really wanted to buy these other things right now. And that would be really fascinating to see if China basically creates the low in the commodity market. Just saying. The Putin-Biden thing, it's all about cyber attacks. We'll see what happens on that end, right? Okay. CRB at the breakout level from last month, notable. I think we're going to hold up, and I think we're going to continue to go higher. And the tailwind, it is obviously crude is the most important weighting, but if lumber starts and all these other commodities start to bounce, then you could see a continuation on the CRB. And what's really fascinating about it is that the Bollinger is just starting to go up, right? And this is monthly, guys. So this is, and if you look at in terms of this is, going back quite a ways, right? Look at where we are. Look at where we've been. Right? It's like everybody's got their shorts in a twist, but okay, whatever. Okay. Let's take a look now at Bitcoin. We look at this. I just think we're in a massive range, guys, and I don't see us breaking out of that range anytime soon. I think there's a top end of the range, and we're going to go down to the bottom. What interests me and where I like to buy, okay, is when this discount to premium gets really deep. So I'm hoping we could get a 20%. If it gets down to here, I'm a buyer, because that means that the GBTC doesn't have to move at all. Bitcoin doesn't have to move at all with this to bounce because of the way in which it's stretched. Okay, so anytime it's in the mid to upper teens is when you want to start to look, just because of the discount to premium value. All right. All right, let's take a look here at Ethereum, hanging in, but this is a weekly uptrend line. It's been soft, and my narrative, this tells me that we're not done consolidating on the downside. You can see also here in terms of that, Bitcoin, obviously with Ethereum, it's actually 12%, 14%. So as this starts to go down, okay, this is where you want to start looking to buy. And that's just simply because of the value, the discount, okay? Bitcoin, Ethereum, all right, we're at a double top here. I expect it to go down. For me, basically Ethereum, when the market is going to be healthy, when Ethereum starts to reclaim its strength going forward. All right, FANG. This is it right here, guys. You see that? Oh, look at that. Trying to break out. It did, and now it didn't. This is weekly, very disappointing. But we have time, right? Let's see what happens on Friday. By Friday, without BEX, it makes it a little bit complicated. We have to look at maximum pain stuff. Let's take a look. We start to look at the Dow transports. And my narrative is, to be honest with you, I don't want the Dow transports leading the market. Okay, and I know this is the Dow theory, and we know about the transports, yada yada yada. But okay, I just don't. And you can see right now that the transports are starting to soften, but they are holding right here. This is the Dow transports. Okay, for me, for market strength, for market health, I want to see like a Microsoft. I want to see that leading. I don't want, and this rally has been a function of the Dow transports, but this was more of a catch-up trade that we had. But we'll go from there. Let's take a look at JETS. We haven't looked at this in a while. We're actually potentially getting a major breakout on JETS. Keep an eye on this. This is the monthly, all right? We've been consolidating. This is a little bit of flag formation. I mean, the reality is that we have to break and hold above these levels right here on the monthly, and that's 27.83. But keep this in the back of your mind. So this would actually also be another bullish narrative for me, is seeing the airlines lead the rally higher as well. Stuff like that. Healthcare also is very strong, very bullish. This is a multi-month consolidated pattern. No idea how this is going to break, but it's meaningful and notable. Okay. XRT retail has been incredibly strong. I like that. Flagging, trying to break out, hasn't done so yet, but this is monthly, so we have time, and we'll see how that plays out. Financials were incredibly strong as well. We got a double top here. I suspect this is just within the range. We have a double bottom here. I don't see us breaking up or out, and we're kind of in no man's land right now. XLK trying to break out as well. We got a quadruple top on this one. But with that said, it's still holding up fairly well in terms of the weekly extension. And you can see right here, nothing's really going on with it, and it's holding up fine. Okay, and this week is going to be important because I think we're going to either break out or we're not. But I think with the quarter end, we could definitely get a nice little pop there. XLK SPY, let's take a peek here, double top there. We want XLK to start outperforming, right, guys? Okay, that would be Microsoft, that would be Apple, et cetera, et cetera. All right, a lot of things. I think we're going to get some clarity by the end of this month into next month, and also the Fed. I think the market's going to say, oh my God, the sky didn't fall. All right, my time is up. Welcome once again for those of you joining us. Pre-market here at Spartan. This is what I do every morning. It's now time for me to pass it on. Are you ready, sir?
Yep. Thank you, Beth. All right, you guys, morning. What's going on? Let me just pop up the screen share here. Oh, looks like Beth's still on. There we go. Oh, whoops, I was on the wrong screen. One sec, guys. There we go. All righty. So what's going on, guys? Morning. Let's take a look at what we got going on today. A couple different things, guys. If you're new to the Discord, make sure to click the link that was emailed to you. Of course, if you're watching the stream, you wouldn't see that. But for the guys that are new, it will be emailed to you. If you don't see it, make sure to go to your junk mail, maybe in that area. Otherwise, you can just email the admin. So let's take a look at what we got going on this morning, guys. So if you do come in today, go to the disclaimer section, as well as go to the new chat formation, scroll to the top and read from the top down. I'll go through this after I do close the YouTube stream in a little bit more detail, but that's what you got to do right out the gate. Pre-market tickers on watch. Let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. So a couple of different things. NVIDIA, NVAX, RBLX, Oracle, ARVL, and APRE. So that's what we got going on today. So let's take a look at these names. NVIDIA gapping down in sympathy with the market. NVAX gapping down in sympathy with the market and in continuation from last day's move. RBLX, Roblox report may detail May daily active users 43 million, up 20%, 28% year over year, but down 1% from April. Stocks gapping down on that. Oracle earnings beat EPS and revs year over year growth 7.5%. Q1 guidance lowered EPS and revs in line. 2022 guidance in line as well. ARVL short squeeze type play being pushed by Reddit, and then APRE Therapeutics announces phase 1.5 trial of I can't say the word, but basically their phase 1.5 trial, they're gapping up on that because it meant their efficacy endpoint. So let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. So first names we're going to be looking at today, guys, the NVIDIA and NVAX. Let's take a look at these. Both gapping down today. I'm just going to throw these on the side charts as well real quick. There we go. Okay. So let's take a look at these two names here. NVIDIA and NVAX. So NVIDIA, stocks gapping down. Looks like EMA support holding for now. A little bit of a range retest right here. As well as there. Let's get that recent range high as well. All right, let's take a look at this thing intraday. I'm also going to mark the next resistance to the upside. It's a little bit of a Fibonacci extension there. All right. So NVIDIA pivot to the downside today. It's going to be that 711.68. This level is unable to hold. We got room towards 702.74 to the next support. That level breaks 696. 74 will be retested. Able to be reclaimed. Look for a pushback to 721.22 to 727.69 on the upside. Overall, NVIDIA going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side actually today, looking for a little bit of a pull and then basing to occur for continuation back to the upside. So I want to see a little bit of a bounce after basing does occur. So that's NVIDIA. Let's take a look at NVAX. Stock is gapping up here. Excuse me. Let's take a look at this. Okay. So a little bit of a pullback into EMA support, 50 EMA being tested on the downside this morning, that 180.70 level. Overall, I think it's going to be, well, we got the longer term uptrend still intact for now, but certainly can come back and retest that area after this parabolic uptrend is broken. Typically, that's what you see. If it does break, high probability to retest that longer term uptrend area. In this case, that's around the 160. That's if that 50 MA is unable to hold. 180.70, which I'm going to move this up to that level. That's fine. All right, let's get rid of this. 66.88. Okay. So 180.70, guys, we're going to be the pivot to the downside today on this NVAX. This level is unable to hold. We do have room towards 172.52. If that level breaks, we can see further continuation lower into the 166.88 spot on the downside. Able to hold, we look for a push back towards the 187.16 to that 193.69 on the upside. Overall on NVAX, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a continuation lower, so unable to hold the 50 MA and a continuation pull to that downside. Two levels of support. I do think we can get into the 160 area if that 50 MA is failing to hold today. So that's kind of going to be the target area for now for me. We'll see what happens. So that is NVIDIA. That is NVAX. All right, let's take a look at the next two names, which are RBLX and Oracle. So I'm just going to take a screenshot of this real quick. All right, so RBLX, Oracle. Let's take a look at these two. RBLX, stock's gapping down. We're around like, what, $80 a share? 50 MA. So we're coming back into this range here. All right, so pivot on the downside today is going to be this 8204 level, which is the 50 MA on the daily. That level is able to be reclaimed. We can push back to fill the gap, 84.69 to 86.65. Unable to hold, we look for continuation lower towards 79.39 to the 77.46. And if that level breaks, we will see 74s on the downside. So overall right now on RBLX, going to be leaning on the bearish side today, looking for continuation lower if that pivot's unable to hold. So we'll see what happens there. Oracle, let's take a look at this. So stock's gapping down on the earnings. Basically on the lighter Q2 guidance, and then 2022 guidance was pretty much in line. Had a little bit of a run into earnings, I guess. Slight pullback flag type of setup. Right back to retest the 50 EMA on the daily, which is essentially where we're at the moment. Oracle always has a tighter range. Okay, so that's that. And 74.93. Okay. All right, pivot guys, 78.21. Levels unable to hold. We got room towards 76.39 to 79. 74.90. Able to reclaim that pivot, 78.21. We look for a push back towards 79.54 to the 80.83 spot on the upside. Overall on Oracle, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a pull and basing to kick in to take the stock long. I think the earnings weren't, that bad at all. I think we'll be looking for a little bit of continuation lower than some basing to kick in though on that name. Range is fairly small, but we're into some daily support levels, so I think we can hold those areas. So that is that. All right, let's take a look at the next two. ARVL and then APRE. So ARVL, Reddit type name being pushed. A little bit of a short squeeze this morning. Let's take a look at where we got going. Our room today on the name. $27.39. Okay. All right, 22.30 will be the pivot to the upside today on this ARVL. This was able to hold. We got room for continuation, 23.56 to 25 bucks on the upside. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 20.84 to 19.99 on the downside. Overall on ARVL, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher. Whoa. So we'll see what happens there. There we go. So decent looking chart. Reclaims the pivot. We can see a continuation push back to the upside. All right, let's take a look at APRE. So stock coming off the lows. So some decent data, efficiency data on their phase 1.5 trial. All right, let's take a look at what we got. What was the upper end level? 830, 849. Okay. All right, guys, 683 pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold. We got room for continuation towards 764 to 848. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 601 to 501 on the downside. Overall on APRE, going to be leading on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a pop topping to take the stock short. So that's what we're looking for this morning. A little bit of a topping to go after it. We'll see if that occurs. So that is ARVL, that is APRE. All right, let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. So market, not much of a gap or move from last day's close. Of course, we got the Fed talking today, which is going to be the big thing that's going to move the market. 424.41 going to be the pivot to the upside today. So same levels as yesterday, essentially. This level is able to hold. We got room for continuation into the 424.83 to 425.42. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 424.04 to 423.27 on the downside. Overall in the market, I'm going to be leaning more on the bullish neutral side today. We'll see if we can hold up and grind higher. I think this morning it's probably more of the same from yesterday. Basically, I think you'll get like a kind of a bearish consolidative move, kind of choppy. And then, of course, after the Fed speaks, we can see what happens. But I'll be looking for a continuation push to the upside. We'll see if we can get it. So that's the SPY. Market's still flagging on the daily to the upside. It still has all EMA support intact, trends intact. So from a technical standpoint, it does look bullish, but we'll see again what happens. So that's the SPY. Let's take a look at Apple. I'm actually going to flip this over to Apple too on the daily, as I like to do it. So Apple tab it extended to the upside. I think that should be filled by now, 128.79. Not quite. So 129.33, guys, pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold. You got room for continuation towards 134.14 to 132.66. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 127.96 to 127.17 on the downside. Overall, I'm going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side on Apple at the gate, looking for a little bit of a pullback into support, and then I think we can get some basing occur. I don't mind the chart at all. I think it is overall bullish in the medium term, but the short term, I think you need a little bit of a pullback to fill the gap. We've been getting gap fills basically across the board. So that's what I'll be looking on that for now. Let's take a look at Amazon. So Amazon did fill the gap on this one yesterday. Still looks good for continuation into this little range resistance area right there, that 34.36 flagging on the hourly to the upside. It's a good looking chart. So 33.94 pivot level is able to be reclaimed. You got room for continuation into this 34.31 on the upside. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 33.63 to 33.41 on the downside. Overall on Amazon, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher. Let's take a look at Netflix. So rejection at the 50 EMA the last couple of days. Yesterday, we got that pullback right off of it. So we're back down towards the short-term EMA support. 492.31 pivot. This level is able to hold. We got room towards 498.99 to 504.32 on the upside. Unable to hold 485.62 to 476.61 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Netflix, probably going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for the EMA support to hold and a little bit of a grind back towards the 50 EMA. It's stuck within that range right now between short-term EMA support, long-term EMA resistance. Expect that range to hold up for now. But of course, we'll have to watch and see what it does today. So that is Netflix. Let's take a look at Facebook. Screenshot this. All righty, Facebook. Let's take a look at this. Range break set up to all-time highs. Nice looking daily chart. That's all good. $338.48 pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold. It got room towards 342.88. Unable to hold. Look for a pullback to 333.79 to 331.77 on the downside. Overall on Facebook, going to be leaning bullish neutral, like the daily chart. Bullish setup, riding the 4 to the upside. Everything looks good in that regard. Range break set up to all-time highs again. Obviously, we failed to push through yesterday and hold out the gate. So we'll see if we can retest it this morning and get back through it, hold above it for confirmation on the breakout. That's going to be the key. So that's Facebook. Let's take a look at Google. $24.34 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold. We got room towards 24.52, 52 to 24.63. Unable to hold 24.15 to 24.02. Will be tested on the downside. Got this range break to the upside, which we are literally right at. Well, the all-time high range breakout from before. Actually, I think we're right below it this morning. But anyways, we got to get back to that pivot point for continuation higher. It is a range break to all-time high setup on the daily. It's not a bad looking chart. Obviously, yesterday we got rejected just like Facebook did. I'll be leaning bullish neutral, but we got to get back to that pivot and hold it for confirmation for continuation higher. So that's going to be the biggest key there. So that is Google. All right, let's take a look at the VIX, Qs, IWM real quick as well. As I like to take a look at these things every day. So VIX, I think, regardless if the market pushes or not, you're going to get a divergence and you're going to see the VIX push to the upside. I think it's just a little bit too low. If you look at the daily chart, we got a downtrend test, short-term EMA support trying to reclaim. And if it does, we got room back towards the 50 EMA on the daily chart there, which is around 1855. Before that, we do have a little bit of resistance at the 1836 level to be tested. I'm going to mark, I guess I can mark both. All right, so pivot on the VIX is going to be the 1748 spot, levels reclaimed, room towards 1836, 1855. On the upside, unable to hold 1659 to 1551 will be tested on the downside. Overall on the VIX, not leaning any direction, but using it for direction on the SPY. We'll see what happens if there's a divergence today on both. Then obviously, then you can just look at the market but always got to keep an eye on it. Gives you a good feel for what's going to happen. My guess, if there's going to be a divergence, it's going to be in the morning before the Fed speaks. And then once they do speak, it should straighten up back to what it typically does. Okay, so that's the VIX. Let's take a look at the Qs. QQQ. So pivot upside on the Qs today is the 342.23. That level is able to hold. We got room for continuation back towards 343.64, and then that recent range high. Might as well throw it at the pre-market area. 345.05. Unable to hold. Look for a pullback into the 340.01 on the downside. Same sort of setup as Facebook and Google, where we're range breaking to all-time highs. We're back below that range, and we're looking to see if we can break above it this morning and confirm for continuation, or we get rejected and we get a little bit of a pullback. So we'll see what happens there. Interesting chart. So that's the Qs. Last but not least, guys, IWM. It's a little bit of a tight range it's stuck within. So it's below the all-time highs. It's stuck within this little flag pattern on the daily, right above the head and shoulders. That 230.35 level is going to be the pivot to the upside today. This level is able to be reclaimed. We got room for continuation into the 231.47 to 232.39. Unable to hold 229.41 to 228.49 on the downside will be tested. I'm going to be looking or leaning bullish neutral, looking for the EMA supports on the daily to hold and us to get a little bit of a push back to the upside. We'll see what happens. Whether or not we can break this little hourly downtrend as well. That's going to be another key. But yeah, I think it's holding up okay for now. So that's the IWM. So that's the SPY, that's the FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today, guys. I'm going to go ahead and type up the pre-market action plan as I pass it over to South Beach, and I'll talk to you guys shortly. South Beach, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Morning, guys. Okay, hump day. Let's see what we got going on. A lot of stuff going on today, actually, but let's go through the setup and see what we got. Okay, so we got the 10-year down 0.01 at 1489. Okay, down from what, a high of 174, I think it was. Low is recently about what, about 120-ish or so. So kind of sort of in no man's land. But the movement has been lower yields, right? Let's see what's going on overseas. Britain, it's down a little bit. They're at 0.75. Same in Germany. They're at a negative 0.24. France, who cares? Japan, 0.05. So basically, zero rates effectively, right? Certainly no competition for equities as far as that's concerned. Let's look at commodities. So we have oil kind of sort of unchanged-ish, up a quarter or so. Copper is up a penny, but you know what the point of least resistance is there, right? Currently it's lower, right? It got up to 475. We're at 434. The range has been about 4 to 475. So moving to the lower end of the range there. Let's look at currencies. Dollars up against North American currencies, down against the yen. Chinese currency down there too, barely 0.639. And in Europe, it's probably up, pinned, 121. Okay. And crypto world, So it was unchanged when I woke up this morning. Now they're down like what? Bitcoin is down. I use Coinbase as my protocol website to see what's what, and it's down 2%, 894. Ethereum is down about 2% as well, 3% actually. And let's look at the foreign markets. Okay, FTSE's unchanged. The DAX is basically unchanged. The Nikkei is down 0.5%. China is down about 1%, and Hong Kong about the same. Okay, so now let's get to the business. Okay, what do we have? So we have the banks, we have the Fed, we have the Fed meeting at 2 o'clock. Okay, I'll talk. Let me circle back to that. China. They came out this morning and they're really trying to keep commodity prices low. So there's all kinds of verbiage coming out of China as far as, you know, they don't want gouging and all this other stuff. Crypto, we discussed. Oil has been in a pretty bull phase. The virus, I don't know. I think I read somewhere today that Europe is going to let Americans travel there. I think they better because they need the dough. And let's look at Mr. Market yesterday. So yesterday we had, it was kind of a weird day. People were positioning for today. Okay. You had machinery stocks were up. You had oil complex was up. You had banks, remember they were down. And then I said, you know, we talked about it. It didn't make a lot of sense. And then they finally rallied with insurance stocks, cyclicals rallied. Those three made sense to rally. Home builders rallied in conjunction to that, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's what happened. And on the short side, you had high beta names on the side, right? You had high PE tech, you had FANGs, you had semis, you had China, solar, vaccine stocks, and biotech and retail, all on the soft side. Okay. So today's the Fed meeting. Paul Tudor Jones says it's the most important meeting in the last 4 or 5 years. Me personally, I think he's smoking something. Why is it more important than what happened when the pandemic started? Why is it more important than a gazillion other times in the past 4 or 5 years? I don't get why he thinks that. And what would be the big deal if Powell punted and changed his opinion in a month? Okay, the most important meeting in the last 4 or 5 years. I don't know. I think Paul Tudor Jones is an iconic investor, a macro guy, but I don't agree with him on that statement at all. So what do I think? How do I think it's? Well, let's talk what Rick Reeder said today. Let's talk about that first, because the guy is super smart, and I think he is a real guy you got to listen to. But basically, he says the risk to the market is overheating. So he thinks that the Fed should address the taper issue, and they should go from emergency conditions to easy conditions. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's a very pragmatic thought, and I think he's right. He says the savings rate is hugely high. Most consumers are the most liquid they've been in a really long time. The savings rate has been way up, et cetera, et cetera. You heard Kramer talk about it. At the end of the day, I think the way it's going to play out is Powell's going to say, we're talking about, we started discussing the taper thing. Okay, you know, it's in the mix. And I think that's what the market's going to do. I don't think it's going to be a massive change. I just think he's going to say, we're starting to discuss, you know, what's next. And discuss the discussion of what's going to happen next. And that's how I think it's going to play out. We'll see. But there's an important question you got to ask yourself. If the market tanks, which I don't see happening unless Powell slips up in the Q&A, ask yourself that, you know, on your investment positions and stuff like that, how will a change in interest rate affect my position? Okay, so like if you're in a bank stock, well, a change in interest rate would affect the position. If you're in a high PE tech name, it may affect the position. If you're in a stock like SELB, it doesn't mean diddly. Okay, so most stocks should not get affected by this. Okay, that's how I see it. All right, so ask yourself that important question. And if your stock gets tanked and you still like it, well, then buy more. It's an opportunity. So I always ask myself that question when I see the market doing something, that tries to scare people out of their positions. How will this affect my position? In most cases, the answer is it won't. So I think it's the other thing I want to mention is, generally speaking, when the number does come out, the first move that the market makes is usually the wrong way. So don't react immediately. Take a deep breath, wait a few minutes. Let's see if it's a head fake, and then get involved. If it's a massive move, it won't matter one way or the other. I don't think it's going to be a massive move, but you never know. And I think if there's a big move, it would come in the Q&A. So that's my thinking on that. And we'll see how it plays out. What else do I have for you? Okay. Okay. Let's talk about a little bit of research. There was some pretty good stuff in here today. Morgan Stanley downgraded these Chinese education stocks. This is probably the worst acting 3 stocks on the board. Actually, they added one that I don't know anything about, which is YQ. They downgraded to sell. They downgraded EDU and TAL to a sell, the other one to an equal weight. The other one, GoTo, they didn't mention. And they didn't give any meat on the bone as to why they were downgrading it. All they did is say they downgraded it. Okay, RMD was downgraded. Steel downgrade to sell, and they raised the target to 41. It makes absolutely no sense. I don't understand that call at all. KMI was downgraded, not really much there. Okay, on the long side, JP Morgan likes Goldman Sachs. They raised the target to 452. Morgan Stanley, they raised the target to 105. And they did visit this steel sector. They like Cliff, target 39. I agree with that. I like Cliff. Nucor was a neutral. Steel Dynamics, they raised it. I guess they changed analysts because they raised the target from 33 to 107. So either the guy's been in a cave somewhere or they switched. It seems like they switched analysts. Target 107 on that one. They like MP. They like RS. Steel was the sell, and I don't understand how you have it sell unless they put the wrong target on here on the research piece I was reading. Let me make sure that's still the case. Yeah, target of 41 up from 7. I don't know how to sell when the stock is 26. I don't get the call. Somebody, maybe it's a misprint in target, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. There was an interesting piece out today on DraftKings. Okay, and I think the guy really hit, when you see an investigation in a company that's regulated, you get really scared, okay, because a state can just say, I don't want you in my state or whatever. But if you read the way this guy laid it out, and I think he did a great job, the guy at Truist, he basically said that this company was started with a merger between the US operation and a company called SB Tech, which was based, I think, in Bulgaria or something like that. He said historically, these companies that are in this business in Europe are a little shady to begin with, and it only represents 8% of their business. So if push came to shove, they could just say, okay, keep the 8% business and get out of it. And I don't see how it changes the narrative at all. So my inclination is, this stock, this note by Hindenburg Research may be correct in essence, but I don't think it really affects this company going forward. I just don't. The more I read about it, the more I understand about it, the more I think it's BS. So that's my sense. It may tread water for a week or two, but I don't think this changes the narrative one bit. Okay. What else was out today? So a couple of other things. Goldman likes this MAXR, great long-term opportunity stocks, 52 target on a $35 stock. So that's an important call. I think that's, something to look at. I think that the Wedbush call and PLCE, they raised the target to 150. Gross margins running meaningfully ahead of consensus, best yet to come. And they like this one, PLCE. I think that's a significant call. I like the Cliff call, but I like Cliff, so that's just me. Wolf upgraded these cruise lines, Carnival, Norwegian, and Royal up to outperforms. Targets are kind of in-line-ish, like Carnival's 32, stocks 28, Norwegian 36 against 30. So I don't think it's a big call. This is a big call, and I don't really get it. So maybe some of you know it more than I do, but it's on Dish. And I don't really have much in the way of pivotal research, but he took the target from 50 to 60, he or she, actually he, Jeffrey Wolzak or whatever, hold to buy, and they raised the target from 50 to 60 about their 5G wireless opportunity. Okay, and so ordinarily, I think Dish is garbage. And I had a Dish once and I thought it was garbage, and I think the company's garbage. Okay, that being said, okay, they're doing a joint venture with Amazon Web Services, which is really, when you get in bed with those guys, you must have something. And they say they're going to do this network 5G initiative, revolutionary cloud software-driven 5G network, which has all the buzzwords, and he has Amazon. So if anybody gets this, this is he's really pounding the table, and I think this is a big call. I just don't understand what the business is yet, so I didn't have time to get to that place. So that's that. I will look at it though. Truist likes Etsy, raised the target to 217. JP likes Amazon, raised the target to 4,600. Mizuho likes Affirm, AFRM. I think the stock was moving up, target 90. SQSP. I was looking at this stock. I thought it may have something to do with Square, but the only thing they have in common is that they both have Square in their name. So target 80, stock's 57. Mizuho likes that one. PANW, Piper likes that one. SoFi, Rosenblatt, whose research I like, they have a target of 30 in SoFi, stock's 20. And that's that. Okay, let's see what Kathy Wood did. She bought some JD, so there's a Chinese stock that she's buying. She bought Vertex, which is getting the crap kicked out of it, but I find it interesting. She bought a lot of DraftKings, and she keeps buying the hell out of this PATH, which has been coming in for a while here. Let's see. So it's been a straight up and then a straight down affair. It got up to 90, now it's 70, and she's been buying size all the way down. Okay, a couple of guys like this ZS. I have no opinion on it. And basically that's the research. Okay. Syndicate wise, we have a lot of deals, and that gives me pause. Okay. There's 3 IPOs today. There's 12 more for the rest of the week. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 secondaries. And you know how I feel about this. It sucks liquidity out of the market, and it's generally negative when the calendar is this full. So one deal is CNVY, Convoy, some medical technology company, Bank America, priced at the low end. It's probably not good. MOLN, Molecular Partners, Swiss Biotech, JP Morgan, 3 million shares. 3 million share second IPO, they can do whatever they want with because it's so small. I thought this one would be priced more aggressively. Walk Me. It's AI powered. Hold on. Something with AI. Anyway, it's a Morgan Stanley deal, priced at the higher end, but not above it. So maybe it's not as hot as I thought it would be. And there's a bunch of secondaries. IKT, RAPT was priced at 33. Upstart, they're doing one there. I don't think if pricing came out yet. Maybe it did while I was on the wire. Apron, this one surprised me that they had to price this stock so badly in the hole, but it is Adams Harkness. This may be something to look at on the long side if it can get above priced at 4.25. So they really had to take this down to get it done. This I'm going to look at this one. There's one in ED, one in NMG. Okay, so that's that. So anyway, that's the crux of it. But I went through it quickly because I wanted to be able to hit the important part of the day, which is the Fed meeting. I think when this is over, the market will have a sigh of relief. I think they just want it out of the way, no matter kind of sort of what he says. But I think he's going to kind of open the door just a smidge to talk about, what's going to happen going forward, that we're going to start talking about tapering. And I think that's the way it's going to play out. And I think the market may have a knee-jerk reaction one way or the other. But I think at the end of the day, you have bonds trading at a really low level, 140 something, right? And you have inflation running above the price of the bonds. So staying in cash is not a great idea. And so assets will provide some relief for loss of purchasing power that you get when, inflation is higher than the risk-free rate of return. And so I think equities clearly are the place to be. I don't think anything's going to change. So, that's the way I see it going forward. I don't think this is the number one call of Powell's lifetime. I mean, I think that is absurd comment, to be honest, from a really smart guy. But he's a lot smarter and a lot richer than I am. So maybe he's right. Okay, I just don't see it. But that's it. I got nothing else. I think the market's going to do a whole lot of nothing into 2 o'clock. You'll trade individual names. Don't get too over your skis, because you're going to want to get back to flattish when it gets to 2 o'clock, and that's the way I see it. So, I'm pretty light coming into today, as light as I've been in the last few weeks, and that's where I'm at. Okay, guys. So that's it for me. If I see anything, I'll let you know. But basically, I'm going to stay, kind of smallish until, unless some great opportunity comes, until the Fed has their meeting. Okay, and that's it. So Spartan, it's all yours, buddy.
Alrighty, guys, what's going on? So let's take a quick little look at what we talked about this morning. Do a quick little recap here. Pre-market tickers on watch. A couple different things that we're looking at today. So I'm just going to quickly scroll up. There we go. So a couple different names we're looking at today: NVIDIA, MVAX, Roblox, Oracle, ARVL, APRE. If you guys are watching the YouTube stream, you can just pause it and read the pre-market action plan. Obviously, you can see all the notes typed up, all the charts posted, et cetera, et cetera. Alrighty, so a couple different names: NVIDIA, NVX, RBLX, Oracle, ARVL, APRE. NVIDIA gapping down in sympathy with the market. NVAX gapping down in sympathy with the market, as well as a continuation from last day's move. RBLX, Roblox reports May daily active users 43 million, up 28% year over year, 1% down from April. Stocks gapping down on that. Oracle earnings beat EPS and revs. Year-over-year growth 7.5%. Q1 guidance lowered. EPS and rev in line. 2022 guidance in line. Stocks gapping down. ARVL, short squeeze type play being pushed by Reddit. Stocks gapping up. And then lastly, APRE. Basically, these guys met their efficacy endpoint for one of their phase 1.5 trials. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. First two names that we're looking at: NVIDIA, NVAX. Alrighty, guys. So NVIDIA, NVAX. Let's take a look. What do we got? There we go. NVIDIA, 711.68 pivot. Levels able to hold 721.22 to 727.69 will be retested. Unable to hold 702.74 to 696.74 will be tested on the downside. Overall on NVIDIA, going to be leaning bullish neutral. Looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point is able to be reclaimed. I want to see basically a pull basing to occur. EMA support to hold on the daily, and then a push back to the upside. NVAX pivot 180.70. Unable to hold, room towards 172.52 to 166.88. Able to hold, we got room back towards the 187.16 to 193.69 on the upside. Overall on NVAX, going to be leaning on the bearish side today if the pivot's unable to hold. Pivot is the 50 MA on the daily, and if that level breaks, you got room towards the uptrend on the daily, which is around the 160 area. So it's got some room to retest a little bit lower. Let's take a look at the next two, RBLX and Oracle. RBLX 8204 pivot. Levels able to hold 84.69 to 86.65 will be retested. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 79.39 to the 77.46 level on the downside. Overall on RBLX, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today. If the pivot's unable to hold, I think we can get a little bit of continuation lower. $78.21. Pivot on Oracle to the downside today. $78.21, unable to hold, moving towards $76.39 to $74.90s, able to hold $79.54 to $80.83. Will be retested on the downside. Overall on Oracle, going to be leaning on the bearish side today, or sorry, bullish neutral side today, looking for basing to take the stock long. So we'll see what happens there. Let's take a look at the next two, which are ARVL and APRE. ARVL, 22.30 pivot, levels able to hold, 23.56 to 25 will be tested, unable to hold, 20.84 to 19.99 on the downside. Overall on ARVL, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot's able to stay intact. So we'll see what happens in that regard. Last but not least, APRE, pivot, 683. Levels able to hold, moving towards 764. That level breaks 849s. Unable to hold, 601, 501 will be tested on the downside. Leaning bearish on the name, looking for a pop topping to take the name on the short side. So that is ARVL, that is APRE. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. So market, what do we got going on today, guys? So pretty much same range as yesterday. SPY 424.41, pivot to the upside today. This level holds. Holds room for continuation into the 424.83 resistance breaks. We see the 425.42 level tested. Pivot unable to hold. From lower into the 424.04 support. Breaks, we see the 423.37 level tested. Meaning bullish neutral. I think what we'll see is a grind before the Fed speaks, like yesterday, a little bit of a pullback, etc. And then after, I'll be looking for a push, but we'll see what happens. Should be an interesting day. There's no question. So that's a SPY. Let's take a look at Apple. Apple pivot 129.33. Levels able to hold. We got room towards 131.14 to 132.66. Unable to hold 127.96 to 127.17 will be retested on the downside. Overall on Apple, leaning bullish neutral. Or sorry, leaning bearish neutral, looking for a little bit of a pullback, fill the gap on the daily, and then continuation back to the upside. Let's take a look at Amazon. Pivot to the upside today is going to be at 33.94.64 level. Levels able to hold. We got room towards 34.31. Unable to hold 33.63 to 33.41 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Amazon, leaning bullish neutral on that name today. Let's take a look at Netflix. Pivot to the upside is going to be the 492.31. Levels able to hold 489.99 to 504.32 will be tested. Unable to hold 485.62 to 476.60 on the downside. Overall on Netflix, going to be leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push higher. EMA support on the daily being retested. I think it's going to hold, in my opinion. Facebook pivot upside. So we got to retest the all-time highs, 338.48. Pivot levels able to hold 342.88 will be tested. Unable to hold 33.79 to 31.77, leaning bullish neutral, looking for a break above that level today. And then last but not least, guys, Google pivot to the upside today is going to be this 24.34.99 spot. Levels able to hold 24.52 to 24.63 will be tested. Unable to hold 24.15 to 24.02 on the downside. Overall on Google, leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation grind higher today. So that is Google. All right, let's take a look at the VIX, Qs, IWM. So VIX, guys, pivot 1748. Unable to hold 1659 to 1551 will be tested. Able to hold, we look for a pushback towards the 1836 to 1855 level on the upside. Overall on VIX, going to be leaning on the, well, not leaning any direction. We look at it with, in conjunction with the market SPY to see direction. So we'll see what happens. I think there may be a divergence at some point. If the market does end up pushing with some range, we may see them push together. But anyways, QQQs 342.23 pivot levels able to hold. They got room towards 343.64 to 345. Unable to hold. 340.01 will be tested. Downside leaning bullish neutral on that. And then IWM pivot on the upside today is the 230.35 levels able to hold. They got room towards 231.47 to 232.39. Unable to hold. 229.41 to 228.49 will be tested on the downside. And on IWM, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side as well, looking for EMA supports to hold in the daily, flag to hold, and us to get some continuation up to the upside. So that's that. So guys, that's a SPY, that's a FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today. If you guys are watching the YouTube stream, thanks for coming out.